All right, I think then it's 11:01. Julia.
Yeah, so I would also like to welcome all of you to our Open Consultation Hour. My name is Julia Dussani and I'm Digital Innovation Manager at IDSA. And today I'm here with my colleague Thorsten Hülsmann, who's Chief Financial Officer at the association.
Yeah, so hello from my side as well. And it's a good mix because Julia is very much involved in all content and technology related activities in IDSA, and I'm more involved in the organizational part. And I can answer all your questions on these and Julia on the other topics. But yes, this is what we will do today. Julia, please go ahead.
So for today, we plan to focus our session on the topics that are most interesting to you, but to get everyone on the same page, the idea is to have a very short presentation, like 20 minutes at the beginning. I don't know if any of you are short of time, so maybe we can skip this part. In case, just let us know now. So I think it's fine. To start, maybe a quick introduction to what IDSA is and what is IDSA. So the International Data Spaces Association is an association and not-for-profit organization that aims to bring a standard of data sovereignty at the market. And it all started 4 years ago in summer 2016 with the contribution of 18 founding members. As you can see, in the past years, the association has grown a lot. So far, we've reached more than 125 members belonging to 21 countries. Most recently, as we've already mentioned, the Sofia University of Bulgaria, NTT in Japan, and Telecom Italia in Italy. And we have many people contributing to our different working groups and task forces, up to almost 375 people. The head office is based in Dortmund, Germany, but as you've seen, IDS has spread already throughout Europe and beyond. So we officially have the support of some innovation, research and technology centers in Europe so far. You can see here which are these associations. So you see VTT in Finland, the Czech Technical University in Prague, the Innovalia in Spain, TNO in the Netherlands, CEFIL in Milan, Italy, Institut Mines Telecom in France, and CERT in Greece. So if you belong to any of these countries, do not hesitate to contact them because they are really aware and willing to support you to get to know IDS. So as we've mentioned, IDS aims to bring data sovereignty. But what do we mean with this term? So data sovereignty is the ability to exclusively and sovereignly decide over the use of one's data as an economic asset. And this is really crucial nowadays because obviously we want to exploit the power of interoperability and share the sharing economy, and we really want to unleash the power of data ecosystems. But on the other hand side, we're really concerned about the usage of the data. So we want to keep ownership, exchange data in a secure manner so that we can really use data as an economic asset. And how does IDS bring this into practice? The core concept is the so-called data spaces. And do not be misled by the term spaces. This is not a physical space. The term actually refers to a data integration concept. So the way you should imagine a data space is more like the sum of different connectors linking different endpoints. And in these data spaces, IDS brings three main pillars. So the first element is IDS brings unlimited interoperability. So IDS is a standard for data flows between different kinds of data endpoints. The second element is trust between different security domains, because IDS foresees different levels of security, providing a maximum level of trust. And the third pillar is governance for the data economy, because obviously the main aspect of data sovereignty is to stay in control of the data and maintain data ownership. So usage control and policies for enforcement are really crucial. And after this very brief introduction, Thorsten will go a little bit more into detail, explaining mainly which assets IDSA has come up with in the last years.
Yes, thank you, Julia. The developments within the last years, which Julia described, have been put in a reference architecture, the IDS reference architecture, which is nowadays available in the third version. So this was end of last year, published as IDS reference architecture 3.0. Setting the framework conditions for IDS. Also the trust framework and the scheme for data sharing and coordinating operations for essential data sovereignty services are described. And this, as Julia rightly said, enables the distribution or the distributed data ecosystem, the marketplaces based on data sovereignty concept, and also enables proven data provenance for the user of data, and in order to prove a way if requested. And this is of importance on certain values. And these values could be linked to the fair data principles, which are also important in this framework. Next slide, please. Here we have a typical data space, how it could look like. As Julia rightly said, it is the sum of data endpoints and the sum of connectors, which are here marked as the blue circles or the blue bubbles. These are IDS connectors, which are at the end connecting different data endpoints. And in this graph view, there are several companies with their shop floor activities, for instance, linked to an industrial data cloud, to enterprise cloud systems, or to IoT clouds or open data sources. And if there are certain constraints necessary, then the communication, the data communication runs via this trusted network. This does not mean that all data communication flows necessarily run in these protected IDS data space. This is shown here with the black communication flows, non-IDS data communication. Both is existing in parallel. But this is like, for instance, a small data ecosystem based on IDS reference architecture could look like. Next slide, please. Yes, and also to mention, these IDS connectors are software, different software technologies which guarantee, for instance, which guarantee this trusted environment. The IDS connector itself then enables access to sovereign trusted data sharing ecosystem. And as Julia rightly mentioned, we have 4 security profiles foreseen, which are satisfying all needs from quick data sharing to comprehensive security requirements. Also, the standard itself was brought into a DIN spec, which was published end of last year, the DIN spec 27070 on security gateway for sharing data and services. And together with the mentioned reference architecture, this could be also seen a little bit as the foundation of the IDS concept. Then different specifications for implementing a connector based on container management technologies are provided in GitLab. And you see mentioned in GitLab that IDSA is more and more developing into an open source initiative. There are already different implementations in place, for instance, in embedded systems, on mobile devices, client-server solutions, and also a formal certification states coherence to reference architecture, interoperability, and software quality. So the overall goal of IDS as a standard development organization is to enable commercial companies to develop their own commercial products based on IDS, and to reach this, the IDS certification on a component level, but also on an organization level, is up and running and already in place. Next slide, please. Yes, I want to speak a little bit about the topic Julia mentioned already, usage control. The usage constraints which are foreseen are nowadays more or less managed via legal contracts. And in future usage scenarios, this will be more and more shifted into technology or technological enforcement. And only to give you an idea what we are talking about or have been talking about in the last years is more or less access control, but we want to also bring into the concept usage control. Next slide, please. And just to give you a little bit of an idea about this, with usage control, as an extension of access control, it is possible in the future to fine-grained policies specify how data is handled after access has been granted, and also that the data sovereignty requirements are formalized and also technically enforced. That in future we can say, for instance, that having access but only for a period of 3 days. What happens if the machine is not allowed to use any longer the data? Yes, but inform the owner of the data, yes, but only in an anonymized way, or only if someone pays for it. So this is the topic of usage control. And you also have on our in our publications quite interesting papers about this concept of usage control. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead, Julia? Yes.
Yeah, I can take over here. Before we move to the Q&A session, I would really like to cover 2 more topics with you. The first one is the roles that you can find in an IDS ecosystem, and the second one is the current state, because I know that this is the most crucial point, and you would like to know what the current situation is. So regarding the first one, the roles in an IDS ecosystem are really multiple, but they can be summed up to 4 main roles. And to explain the roles, we really like to use the metaphor of the motorway. So in a motorway, you have different vehicles, you have the infrastructure itself, you have the municipality that checks over the whole dynamics and safeguards that the rules are complied to by all the drivers. And you also find some service providers. So if you travel and sometimes you need to refill your car, you have a gas station where you can stop to, or you can stop and buy some food. So this is more or less the same that happens in an IDS ecosystem. So you have data providers and data users that exchange data. You have an infrastructure that enables this data sharing. So you have providers of identity services, clearing and billing, or certification. And you also have service providers like the providers of an app store or broker service providers. And on top of this, there is the association itself. So IDSA stays on top and safeguards that the value propositions are there, sets the rules, and makes sure that trust is there in the ecosystem. But how does this really happen? Which are the dynamics that are there in between these actors? I think this slide really sums up these interactions very well. So you can see on the two sides of the picture the data owner and the data user, which are not necessarily the data provider and data consumer. And you see in the green or light blue rectangular shapes all the different services that we've mentioned. So you see the broker service provider that publishes and enables the search of metadata. You have the clearinghouse, the App Store, and so on. And just very quickly, in this version of the slide, you can see where some of the IDSA members position themselves in this context. So you can see, for example, IBM or engineering positioning themselves as data providers, or you can see Fraunhofer, PwC, and TÜV as the related to the certification. And if this is not clear enough so far, this picture is not the most beautiful one, but I think it's really powerful because it shows where all the different actors position themselves in an IDS ecosystem. So you can see the IDS trusted environment in the middle, so in the light blue circle, and you can see the untrusted world on the outside. And this does not necessarily mean that any data exchange outside IDS is not trustworthy, because obviously you can always go to a system integrator and go through the normal way of data exchange, but the power of IDS is really to enable a safe and trustworthy environment where a multitude of companies can exchange data in a sovereign manner. So all the pillars that we've mentioned before, the unlimited interoperability is shown here via the different connectors that access the ecosystem, and you can see the relation with all the different services. And moving to the last important point, what is the current situation? So the current activities of IDSA belong to two main streams of activity. The first one is the one on the left-hand side, so the evolution of the IDS offering. And this means that all the different working groups and developers community are constantly working on the technology itself to really refine it and make it more adherent to what the requirements are coming from the industry. And this leads us to the second stream of activity, which is the adoption and proliferation. So IDSA is really active to disseminate about the concept and to really support IDSA members to make IDS market ready. And to do that, we have different communities. We are very well in contact with other initiatives, not only in Europe. And one of the most recent activities that belong to this stream is the so-called Launching Coalition. And I will talk about it in 1 second. So as you can see, these are the two main streams of activity, and they are really interweaving with each other. So on one side, the technology is continuously improved, and on the other hand side, the industry-led use cases bring new requirements to the evolution of the offering. And to explain a little bit more what the Launching Coalition is, I really like this slide because it shows who are the companies that are involved and what is our mission with it. So with this term, we refer to a smaller group of IDSA members that have the vision to bring IDS to the market. So they're really like pioneers. They're working together to implement real-life use cases and that are discussing together to agree on the final sets of agreement that are necessary to make IDS really operating. And you can see that we are guiding them via 3 main work streams. The first one is the creating business cases, where we support them in really identifying a business model for their use case. The second one is the building solutions, where we focus on real implementation, where we have different the Platfest from Fraunhofer, and we have the integration camps that are now offered by SQS. And the third one is the writing rulebook, which is what I just mentioned before. So the document that contains all the final sets of agreements that will enable IDS to be fully operating, going from the admission of new members to maintenance processes, final technological specifications, and very important, the legal side of data exchange. So what's really interesting, we had our deadline at the end of September to release the version 1, and we are currently refining the layout, and then we will discuss it with the whole launching coalition. So we're really happy with the current result, and maybe we'll have the chance to speak about it a little bit later. So this is it from our side. Now we would really like to know which are the topics that are most interesting to you. So please unmute yourselves or just write in the question section, and we will be happy to answer your questions.
Maybe I would like to, as an icebreaker, I would like to take the input of Irena in the pre-chat to learn a little bit about the organizational structure. Julia, could you go back to the slide where the service offering and the proliferation communities are displayed? Because Irena, if you allow, I would just take this graph view to explain a little bit more detail how members are active in the different communities.
Yes, thank you very much. It will be very useful. Okay.
Did you mean this one?
No, the one with the service offering on the left-hand side, which you explained.
Yeah.
And the this one exactly. So how are members engaging in the association? There are constant possibilities to meet and to work and to give input. And these are mainly the working groups, which you see on the left-hand side. The most important working group is the working group on the architecture and on standardization. This is a working group which is meeting every well, once a quarter, so to say, and where experts who are interested in the overall concept of IDSA meet and also bring in requirements from the different members and from companies or from projects. And then we have also a working group which is working on the certification criteria, a very specialized working group. This is also open for all members to join. There are always publications coming out of these working groups. And then we have also working groups who are not constantly running but have a certain period. We call them task forces. And for instance, currently the group on legal issues in data sharing met for a sequel of meetings, and this is also possible for everyone to join. This is on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, Julia mentioned the different communities. For instance, Launching Coalition. This is a group of members who really are on the fast track, so to say, with their projects, with their experiments. But we also have other ones. For instance, the communities. We have some members who are exclusively interested in health issues, and therefore we have a community on health, on the health industry. We also have a community on manufacturing or production. I think in Germany it's more called production, in other frameworks more manufacturing, and therefore we have a community which calls itself IDSI. I is for industry, and this is mainly on production in factories in manufacturing. So these are the ways how it is possible to engage, to discuss, but also, as Julia mentioned, for instance, in the developers community, to really tangibly work on IDS implementation, on software coding, on exchange, on this. So I think, Irina, this answers a little bit your question, how the community itself is organized and is also supported by the IDSA head office. But now it's up to you. Sorry, yes, Irina.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, it provides a very clear answer, because we try to get oriented around the site, because there were listed some working groups, and then in the forums there are a bit different working groups, so it was not really clear. But for the moment we are active in 4 areas. One is health, is digital health. And the most active areas are actually future city, smart city, and digital health. So it will be very interesting for us to get into the community. But we are also aiming to be more active in the industry, even though currently industry is a bit affected, especially in Bulgaria, by the COVID situation, and then in intelligent government. So it will be very interesting to get involved in these groups. And also we are starting to build our platform and data space. We have already signed several MOUs with organizations to provide private data. So with regard to the platform, how we would like to follow, of course, the reference architecture, but what is the path to get certified, to get our platform certified by IDS?
Julia, do you want to answer on the certification question?
I can answer this question. So let me just find the right slide. We are in the process of finalizing the certification process, and currently we are about to approve the first evaluation facilities. So IDSA is taking the role of certification body, so the body that oversees the actions of the evaluation facilities that will later certify components and operational environments for IDS participants. And the process to get certified is basically referring to one of these approved evaluation facilities, and the certification body will obviously be there to support. And after the evaluation facilities are published and approved, they will be able to guide you through the whole process. And maybe an interesting aspect is that if your solution is already at a good stage, you can get prepared for the final assessment for certification via a sort of pre-certification, and that's called IDS Ready. And all the future evaluation facilities are enabled to do that. And I've now find the slide that I wanted to show you. We really like to be transparent on what we are doing, and here you can see what are the next steps for the certification process. So here at the beginning of October, we are setting the certification body in place, and we will start with the first approvals of the evaluators, and the first approved evaluation facilities will be ready somewhere in December. So from that time, the real certification process will be fully operating. And as I just said, in the meantime, you can already ask for the IDS Ready statement. So you can see it at the top part of our timeline. Yeah, the logo with the shields. And that's really a big advantage and speeds up the certification process really a lot. So I hope this.
Thank you very much. And what should be the readiness of the platform in order to get certified? And in this regard, you mentioned that you have already several implementations of the connectors. So does it affect also the certification? Do we need to implement our own connectors, or we can use some of the existing ones?
So to this regard,
I think these are two different questions, but
yeah. So unfortunately, I'm not a technical person, so I cannot answer to the real technical issues. But for sure, we can make you into contact with the people, the reference people of the evaluation facilities, to ask all these technical questions. And regarding the connectors, I know that in the launching coalition, there are a lot of dynamics, and companies are using identity services from other companies. So there should be the chance to use connectors. And for sure, one of the business in an IDS ecosystem is that there will be companies selling connectors. I cannot say when exactly this is really possible, but for the end of November, we plan to have our essential services in place. So by then, the companies will have the essential services not only fully implemented, but also market ready. So that should be the point in time when this is possible. This is the target we're aiming to. So we're really working to make this possible at the end of November.
Okay, thank you very much. And
that both parts are possible, right? So it is possible to build on existing connectors, implement them in your platform, but you could also code your own connectors based on IDS reference implementations, for instance, based on the standard. Both is possible.
Okay, I don't want to take all the time. Just one last question. So what are the requirements to become a national IDS hub? What do we need?
I sent yesterday to Sylvia an email on this, but I forgot to CC you. So there are no real preconditions, but as we are a non-profit organization, the hub facilitator should also be a non-profit organization, which is the case in your case, from my understanding.
Yes,
and it is a little bit different from other contexts. So our IDSA hubs are really seen as an extended head office, and we only foresee to have one in each country for the time being. So it is really more an IDS facilitator, and hub facilitator, and the goal is to transfer knowledge on IDS in the country of question, to help companies to align and maybe also to form a country, a local or regional community. But I will send after this call the same email which I sent yesterday to Sylvia to you as well, then you can read.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, so I think we have a question in the chat from Cesar. I hope I pronounce your name in the right way. It's related to the different languages, data languages, and Cesar refers to the question of exchanging data in, for instance, in the footwear sector, where the language, of course, is different. Julia, I think I want to answer this question by showing one slide. I just have to check how this goes. I want to.
So maybe I can just give a little bit of context here.
Yes.
So IDS has an information model that stays on top of the different schemes. So this is what really enables different companies to be interoperable. And unfortunately, I'm not too technical, so I cannot go too much into detail, but our main expert on the information model, Christoph Lange, has explained these topics in a live session some weeks ago, and I highly recommend you to go there and watch the recording. We will share the slides, and I think I also put the link to the to the video itself. Otherwise, from our main page of the live sessions, you can access all the past live sessions.
Okay, thank you. I will search for the conference you are referring to. Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. And maybe to add, I just want to mention, IDS goal is to really work on the generic level, because we think that in future data ecosystems, it is necessary that all different domains on a top level understand each other, that the full potential of data can really be unleashed. And therefore, for instance, IDS is responsible for this generic top level. And then, for instance, what is common? Common is that identification and authentication is necessary. Also, the top-level governance model, which is proposed by IDS, should be the same for all domains. And then if we go down to the domain-specific requirements, it is completely right what you said. Data standards and formats differ from domain to domain, from industry to industry, and this has to be taken into account. And it has to make sure that at least on a meta level, these data can communicate to each other. Also, the authorization in each domains might work differently. And also the governance within different domains is different, but at least it should be possible to connect to the overall governance. And we also witnessed throughout the last months and years that within one domain or within one industry, on a business case specific environment, there might be also other governance models on a company level, for instance, and our information model ensures that all this works together on a top level. This is our aim. But Julia is perfectly right to linking and pointing to these sources. Thank you, Cesar, for your question.
Can I make another one?
Of course.
Second one. I will
go ahead. Yes.
Other questions. So the connector here is the basic ingredient for a data point or an organization to be able to publish data, to consume data in a given area. So assuming that that we may have several data vocabularies, for example, one for textile sector, one for footwear sector, just as examples. I assume that in terms of implementations of this connector, as it is a software element, perhaps there will be some commonalities that you just explained regarding authorization, security, privacy, all those global things. But in the end, there will be a very different implementations, because probably for one sector and for another sector, the data vocabularies are so different, so specific, that in the end, you would require a specific connector. Am I thinking correctly? Do you have a general opinion on this?
No, I think you stated it right, because we already witnessed that in different domains, the implementation of connectors are different and are tailor-made for the purpose in which they should work. But as I said, if the overall goal is, by referring to the standard and the reference architecture and also the reference implementation, it could be make sure that on a generic level, the communication could be possible also via or in different domains, connecting these different, let's say, domain specific implementations. Julia, anything to add?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we have another question, but maybe before that, I see that Adam has raised his hand some time ago. So please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Okay. Adam Smith here. I'm working with the German government on cloud projects at the moment. Very interested in the Gaia X initiative. As I understand it, IDS is now integrated in the program, in the Gaia X program. And my question is, what is the integration or the areas in which you're working together with the other parts of the Gaia X program?
Maybe I start on this. You are completely right. IDS is one of the 22 founding members of the Gaia X, and the overall goal of Gaia X is these federated cloud services, which are described in the current Gaia X future offering or announcement. And exactly as you said, IDS is delivering the data sovereignty part on it. So fundamental parts of the Gaia X architecture rely on IDS, and you see it here in this graph view that the trustworthy architecture for data sovereignty Gaia X is building on, and also the other elements. And our CTO, Sebastian Steinbus, which you might hear because he's working in the same room as I, he is very active in the respective working group of Gaia X, ensuring that all these future structures can be brought together. So this is completely right.
Thank you.
And yeah, maybe just to point you to the right material, we have an entire live session recorded on this topic. It was led by our CEO, Lars Nagel, and this is also a good in-depth if you would like to give it a look.
Oh, that looks great. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, so moving to the next question, Hideki asked about the hub in Japan. So he says, there's no hub in Japan at the moment. Who is the right organization I can contact in Japan, or what is the right process I have to try to contact IDSA?
Yes,
So,
I think I can answer on this. Exactly. Thank you, Hideki, for this question. So the challenge with the IDSA hubs is a little bit that we only implement an IDS hub facilitator if we have more than 2 or 3 members in each country, because otherwise there wouldn't be so much fun and so much need to start with an hub. And in Japan, there will be soon a hub, because beside of Hitachi and NTT, we also have 2 other candidates who will apply for membership very soon. And we already reached out to several non-profit organizations, for instance, the Japanese Data Trading Alliance, but also 2 research and technology organizations which are under the METI ministry, and very soon, I think at least until end of this year, we will decide with whom we will go ahead. And I could foresee that at the beginning of next year there will be also an IDSA hub facilitator in Japan, who then will summarize and support the uptake of IDS in the country and also with the companies in question. Unfortunately, we had plans over the summer to go ahead a little bit faster with this, but unfortunately, COVID was not supporting this, so we are lacking a little bit behind. But I'm pretty much sure that at the end of the year we will come up with an hub in Japan.
Okay, thank you very much. So I understand the current situations, and I will wait the end of this year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe we could bilaterally after this meeting exchange some emails, because I would be interested what is your preferred solution, because I mean we definitely do not have so much knowledge about the Japanese market. We have some people who help us there, but we think that we could also listen to potential IDS interested companies to find the right partner. But I think we can do this bilaterally, if you agree.
Okay, thanks. I see.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Are there other questions? Or in general, other topics that you would like to know more about?
Then maybe
sure. I have
yes.
one more.
Go ahead. Yes,
I have one
Adam.
more question, which is for beginners in this area that are wanting to get a feel for what's happening currently. What will be the earliest, kind of most simple, sexy, interesting use case, or I mean, real use of IDSB? Is it still clear? Do you have like a couple of candidates there where you can say, yeah, it looks like this one or this one will cross the finishing line quite soon?
Yeah, so I also have a slide for it. So we have within the launching coalition, we have different use cases, and there are some that are really advanced and they're waiting just for a certification. And one of them is from Deutsche Telekom. Yeah,
by the way, we have someone in the call from Deutsche Telekom, right?
I'm not checking the attendees list, but yeah. So this intelligence hub will be a marketplace, and actually it's already active. You can go on a website. I have the link here, but I don't know how I can show it to you. So this marketplace aims to facilitate access to data, especially for SMEs, and it also offers services related to data. And I will try to share my screen now to show it to you.
I think, Adam, what is important here is that the data market could exist as such, but as it is related to a lot of SMEs, which are usually, especially in Germany, fear to share data with potential competitors or also partners, Deutsche Telekom agreed here to implement certain data sovereignty technologies as they are listed here. And I think this is quite an advanced use case, which is already on the market.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. Can you post the URL in the chat?
Yeah.
And maybe I want to refer to another use case which is currently very, very advanced. In the Netherlands, we have the IDS member TNO, and TNO is experimenting since a lot of months within a project. They call it Supplier Network, and here you also clearly see the advantage of data sovereignty mechanisms and trusted governance schemes implemented, because it is then possible to connect different competitors in a supplier network working together and also sharing data, which in the past was not possible because for instance, if you see that there's a main data not data owner, but let's say a manufacturing company, a big OEM, for instance, who wants to push all his suppliers to connect to one platform. You can maybe do it with the tier 1 supplier, but if you think about connecting all tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers, it might get really complicated. And with this trusted network and data governance, where also the small SME as a supplier can guarantee the sovereignty over the data flow, it is much easier. And I think that the Dutch use case is very advanced and very promising as well.
Very interesting. Thanks.
And by the way, we have on our website a brochure with some interesting use cases. So I really recommend that you go there and give a look. And we're also preparing a new website, and there you will find even more content. So stay tuned for that. Are there other questions? We still have some more minutes, so.
I may raise a very simple one. You mentioned also that there are available, if I understood it correctly, some reference implementations of the connector. Where can I find these?
We will link you to it. Julia, do you want to answer?
No, I think you can go ahead.
Yeah. So, César, there are two possibilities. For all members who are, or organizations who are member of IDSA, we have a platform, like an intranet based on Jive, and there different reference implementations can be found. But additionally, there are also some places in GitHub, and after this call, we can send you an email with some links where you can find these reference implementations and descriptions of the connectors in question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think then.
Yeah, if there are no other questions, we still have some minutes. So if you have some doubts or other topics that you would like to go more in depth, this is the right time. Otherwise, we hope that you also believe that data sharing is better than being alone. And we would really like to stay in contact to go on with this initiative together. So do not hesitate to have more questions or to see how you can contribute. And before we close, I would remind you about our upcoming live session. So as already mentioned, or as already shown, we will have a live session announcing certification on October the 28th. And the day after, we will have the fourth session on design principle for European data spaces. And the last one that we have upcoming, yeah, very interesting TED Talk on the integration camps offered by SQS. So that's really interesting if you're planning to create an IDS component. Do not miss that one because it will really give you some nice insights. So for now, thank you very much for joining us today. I wish you all a very nice day, and let's keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Yes, also from my side, have a nice day. And for those organizations who are not yet member, please connect to us, and we would happy to answer all your questions on becoming IDS member. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.